Growing up back home, my family was one of two Indian families in a predominant Black village. And we were always taught to, respect our elders, regardless of the skin tone. You respect everyone around you. My best friends were Black. We went to school with everyone who were Black. And I don't think my grandpa even really knew why he did not want, you were allowed to be besties. His best friends were Black, our neighbors were Black. When we kill our animals for Christmas time, we don't feed half the village.
So that makes it okay. And people who know better should inflict the same cycles of behaviour. What? I've literally seen Black people be racist to Indians too. But that don't mean I'm going to sit here and say it's okay when Indians are racist back to Black people. And I'm not denying that some people can be racist in every culture, but I'm not talking about ignorant people here. I'm talking about those of us who know better. I'm talking about the same people who want to scream racism, but continue to remain ignorant. In the context of what I'm speaking about, and to the level of this racism, no argument can justify it.
Imagine being welcomed into a country because of the skills, opportunities, or dreams you bring with you, only to discover that the color of your skin can change the way people see you. Imagine walking into a shop, a workplace, a neighborhood, or even a social gathering, and suddenly realizing that you are being treated differently simply because you are Black. For some Indians living abroad or navigating multicultural spaces, this is not just a story they have heard from someone else. It is something they say they have experienced themselves. But what happens when the discrimination comes from the very people you expected to understand you? In this narrative journey, we are going beyond the usual conversations about race. We are hearing directly from Indians who have lived, worked, traveled, and built relationships in places where race can sometimes become an uncomfortable part of everyday life. Some say they have been judged because of their skin color. Others describe moments when they felt rejected, disrespected, or treated as though they did not belong. And some have stayed silent about these experiences for years. But today, they are finally speaking.
Hey guys, story time on how Indian parents shame you for being dark. I know y'all can relate. This has been a problem in so many households, and not only does it seep into the Bollywood industry, okay, I'm still having a hard time accepting it's okay to be darker. So for example, I was much more dark skinned when I was younger, but over time I became a little lighter. The problem was, since I was young, all my family members, relatives, they'd be like, she's so dark, her mom is so light, why is she dark? And I mean, my dad is darker skinned, so that's why I'm in the middle. Indirectly, it's already instilled that mentality on me, don't be dark, don't be dark, don't be dark. I always argue back to family members now. I'm like, who said being dark means you're not pretty? Who literally said? It pisses me off to the max, and it gets even worse because I went to Cancun over spring break, so as you can see, I have tan lines, I got you can see the difference. This is my makeup shade because it's not blending with my tan skin, obviously. I have to wait for it to fade back to this, but you can tell when I was sending pictures of myself to family members, they you got so dark, oh my god, we have to go to this and this wedding and that, you can't be dark. Our parents get so mad. We want to cover up when we're in the sun. We don't like tan. Tell me why I did not want to be in the sun, because I did not want to tan this bad. This is me trying not to be in the sun. It's just the wrong mentality, and I'm still trying to overcome it. It's hard growing up seeing the lighter skinned people being favored. They see people have the craziest different things, mixtures and herbs and all of these things that they put to make you look lighter, anything and everything. Then it goes oh, she's so dark now, she won't get married, nobody wants to be with her. This I could literally talk about this for days. It pisses me off so much.
The first time I ever faced racism was when I was in Dubai, and I was just at Dubai Marina, and a Arab man, I'm assuming, he came to me and he was approaching me, asking me, oh, what's my snap, what am I doing, what's my name, and he seemed to be genuinely interested in me, okay? Until he asked me, where am I from? I said, India. And I don't know what switched in him. He completely just changed my persona in his mind. He was like, oh, you stinky Indian. And at that point, I had no clue that this is actually a stereotype outside of India. And for a person like me who takes smelling good so seriously, I always get compliment on how good I smell all the time, okay? To a guy who seemed interested in you saying I stink, it really hurt me. I still remember that night. I went back at my hotel room and just cried the whole night. I genuinely didn't want to do anything for the rest of my trip because it was really, really hurtful.
So I did a video on TikTok that went viral around the racism towards Indian people that is going around on TikTok. And the majority of the comments were from other race groups saying that, well, why should we care when the Indian community is so racist towards us? And I agree. I think our community can be really racist, especially previous generations. And I think we have a huge duty to call out our parents, grandparents, etc. on their racism. But I still don't think it makes it okay to be racist towards a particular group of people and use your justification to be racist towards them as, oh, well, they're racist, so we can be racist back. I think that doesn't make any sense. And so, yeah, I urge you to go and have a look at that video and look at the comments, and it's quite disturbing. I think racism, again, I'm going to say this, racism towards Indian people in the world and on TikTok is so normalized, and I think our community as well, we just laugh off these comments, and it's almost become just so part of our lives. And yeah, we need to stop this. It has such a massive effect on our mental health that we don't even know. It's very subconscious. So yeah.
Okay, so before I started my series, I wanted to tackle this question right here. A lot of Indians don't like black people because if you have a baby with a black guy, they think how dark it will come out. And in my case, this is true. So my family always called me dark growing up. Mind you, I'm not that dark, but my mother is darker than me and my father is lighter than me. So of course, then you get me. But apparently I'm still dark. So when I was pregnant with my son, all my mom would say is how dark my child was going to be. Now, when he was born, when you look at the top of a newborn's earlobe, you'll see what color they're going to be, basically. Their pigmented earlobe basically tells you how dark or how light the child is. So what she said was, he's going to be so dark, look at his ear. I was like, huh? I didn't get it until later that she thought that because of his ear, he's going to be dark. And well, anyway, colorism is a big issue in India, and that could be why they don't really like the intermingling with black people. Now, that being said, my mom did remarry after my parents divorced, and she did marry a white guy, and my sister is half white, so she's super, super bright. So, yeah.
I made a video a few days back, and the basic premise of that video was that I had an issue with my community, the Indians, being racist towards the African American community. Now, obviously, I anticipated some negative comments, and there were a few, and most of them aren't even worth talking about because it was some variety of whataboutism. There was one that surprised me, though, and it was this idea that I was pandering to the Black American community. So, since that question was from a South Asian, I'd like to answer that by telling you the history of South Asians in the United States. So the whole thing starts in the late 1800s. There were Sikh laborers and farmers who ended up coming through Canada, ended up on the West Coast. They worked on the railroads, they worked in lumber mills, they eventually ended up in agriculture, and they ended up in California. Now, because of the laws of the land at that time, Asians were not allowed to buy or hold any property. So the Sikh men found a workaround by marrying Mexican women who were citizens or who could be citizens. So in the early 1900s, there were these Sikh Mexican communities in California, which is amazing to me, and I'm going to learn everything about them whenever I get a chance. But right here, I'd like to pause the story for a second. A special shout out to the Sikh community. For those of you that don't know, they're the warriors of our society. They're always the first in. And apparently now you can add to their accomplishments that they were the first Indian men to step to Latinas. So thank you for that. Moving on, let's fast forward to 1917. 1917 is what begins the start of the era of legal erasure, or what is also called as the era of exclusion. I've been called both things. So it starts in 1917 with the Barred Zone Act. So what the U.S. did was they created what was called the Asiatic Barred Zone. This encompassed an area including a lot of Asia and part of the Pacific Islands where the United States would not take any more immigrants from. So immigration at that point was zero. So what happened to the South Asians in America? Well, I said legal exclusion, right? So for that, we have to fast forward to 1923. In 1923, there was a gentleman named Bhagat Singh Thind. He applied to become a U.S. citizen. And this case went all the way up to the Supreme Court. So his argument was, since he was high caste, he was Aryan, so therefore he should be considered white, and therefore he should be able to apply for citizenship. Supreme Court came back and said, though scientifically you are a Caucasian, in the eyes of the common man, you would not be considered white. So therefore, you have no rights. So what they did was they actually went back, and if there were any rights that South Asians had at that time, they stripped them of those rights, right? And this is the situation that existed till 1947. Okay, basically no Indians coming in, and the Indians who were here had no rights. So let's get to 1946. So in 1946, the U.S. overturns the total ban on Indians. They allow 100 Indians per year starting in 1947. What was the reason for this magnanimous change by the United States? Well, it was the middle of World War II, and there were Indian soldiers dying. So it was diplomatically embarrassing that soldiers dying for your cause would not be allowed to enter your country, right? So from that point onwards, from 1947 onwards, 100 Indians were allowed every year until 1965. So in 1965 was the Immigration and Nationality Act, which changed all the rules of immigration for everybody. And from that point onwards, immigration was normalized. Now, for those of you who study American history, that number 1965 should be pretty instructive, because in 1964 was when the Civil Rights Act was passed. All right, so that's my argument. Let me take that back. All of our accomplishments, everything we've accomplished, none of that even gets off the ground without the sacrifice of Black Americans. And for that reason, I think at the very least, we can just not be racist towards them, because we're here and we're able to do this because of their sacrifice. So if you think that's pandering, you're entitled to your opinion. I don't care. I'm just going to keep doing the thing that I think is the right thing to do. Anyway, that is my long-winded response. Have a go.
I swear, day by day, this fucking country is just making me go insane. The lack of social awareness in India is just outstanding to me, dude. I literally left my hostel at like 9 o'clock at night and checked into this random hotel, the cheapest one I could find within walking distance, just because the way people are acting is just fucking ridiculous, dude. I'm this close to crashing out and leaving. So I made the mistake of booking another hostel in Darjeeling, and these two dudes come in with like a bottle of rum. Mind you, you're not even allowed to drink or smoke at the hotel, and they just crack this bottle of rum open in the room and just start drinking it, and then they pull out a pack of cigarettes and start chain smoking in the shared room. And I'm telling them, I'm like, I don't smoke. Stop fucking smoking in here. And then the hotel owner came down and got super mad at them. They're like, do you not see all the signs plastered all over the wall? You can't smoke in here. And they just kept doing it to the point where it was literally hotboxed. So I just straight up packed my shit and just walked out and left and booked this place. But, you know, you have that. You have people turning on the lights, people having conversations in the room at midnight, people having conversations in the room at 7 o'clock in the morning. People would just sit on my bed when I'm, like, sleeping, having conversations. It's, like, just so uncivilized. And I'm trying really hard. To have a positive experience. Last time I was in India, I left after 4 days. And I'm trying, man, but it's just...
One thing I've always been curious about, and I feel like I'm not smart enough at all to fully expand my thoughts on this topic, but whenever I'm on like Instagram Reels or like any sort of app and there's like a racist post, whatever, I feel like that racism doesn't necessarily translate to real life for most groups of people, just because I feel like, yeah, like obviously Black people experience racism, but like racists aren't really racist anymore. They know not to try that shit in real life for the most part, but for Indian people, that hate is like real online and in real life, and I've always been like so confused as to just like why it's okay and why no one really says anything about it. And it almost feels like weird talking about this because like I know historically like Indian people, they don't like Black people. I don't think I know an Indian guy who doesn't say the N-word. Most Indian girls are cool, but like I feel like a lot of Indian guys are kind of like self-hating too. But that's not for me to talk about. And I also love the Indian community. I literally almost converted to Sikhism in high school because like I just thought it was cool. it's not okay, but yeah. But like, people really, really don't like Indians. Like when I was in college, like the things that people would say about like the brown people around campus was crazy, and it's just always like no one talks about it. Like I feel like a lot of the, again, need to choose my words carefully, but like a lot of the hate that like we're told happens to other groups is really happening to these guys, and like it's just like fine. Like it's so odd to me.
Dark skin is, unfortunately, it's, I mean, it's the biggest irony, to be honest, when you see colorism in India, because, you know, if you really want to argue, then you can say that, well, actually, they are the original Indians, right? The darker skinned Indians are the original Indians. But unfortunately, it is something that, you know, people look down on. Anti-blackness, for that reason, is an issue in India. And, you know, if you're dark skinned, you're called the word Kala, which means black. So, yeah, it's quite shameful, to be honest.
So do my Indian parents finally accept my half-black children? Let's get into it. So last I left off, I haven't spoken to my dad in over a decade. I think the last time I spoke to him was in 2013. I don't need him in my kids' lives. He disowned me a long time ago, or I felt he disowned me, even though I felt like he wanted to communicate with me, but he didn't want to own up to the fact that he has half black grandchildren. He would tell people I'm off somewhere studying. The kids didn't exist. There was no pictures of me in this house. There's no pictures of the kids in this house. Anytime I would see one of his friends, oh, how's school? Bro, I'm married. But anyways, yeah, I don't need that in my life. You'll learn more about my upbringing with my dad and my stepmother in another video. There's a lot there. Anyway, so now let's get into my mom. I tried. Guys, I tried. And I'm like, okay, let's see if she changed. And I would use little triggers to see how she would react. There were 3 things that I'm like, wow, you can still do this to this day? So one was my 21-year-old hurt his Achilles in December. He got hurt. I told Instagram, Facebook, all of that. So my mom follows me on Facebook. So she read it. And I also told my sister, who told my mom. My mom writes me 4 days after it happened. And she was like, she wrote me on Facebook Messenger. She's like, is, you know, Elijah okay? I was like, he's okay. He's in a lot of pain. She wrote me 2 days after that message and gave me a thumbs up emoji. A thumbs up. Okay, whatever. So I decided to visit my sister in Maryland, and because she just had a baby and I wanted to see my nieces. There's 2 of them. So I went there with my oldest daughter, who was her favorite when I was younger. She was literally like, give me her and I want to raise her again. Like she was her daughter because, you know, apparently she didn't raise me and my sister right. Yeah. Anyways, so I brought her to Maryland to see her grandmother because she also wanted to see her uncle and her aunt and all of that good stuff. And my mom, the only thing she really said to my daughter was hi. There was no conversation. There was no, oh, how's school? Or what are you doing? Are you working? There was no trying to get to know her granddaughter at all. And I'm like, that's crazy. You would think she wants to get to know her grandchild. Like, who wouldn't want to get to know your grandchild? If I had a grandchild, I want to know everything about that child. But yeah, she really wasn't trying to talk to that child. And it was very disheartening to see. Very disheartening. I'm like, wow, okay. I'm going to have to get to a part 2 because there's not enough room in this video for this.
We need to ask ourselves one thing. Why are some of us racist towards black people? Like, what have they done to you? Like, come on, really. There's definitely something broken inside you, like all those stereotypes or whatever you see in the news, and then you obviously try to associate them with like something worse. Like, you know, why is it that black people are always being criminalized? Why is it that they're being stopped and searched in London or anywhere in UK? They're being stopped and searched like 7 to 10 times more than a white person. Why? Also, one day I was going to college with my Nigerian friend, okay? And as you can tell that I'm not black, but he was black. Now, here's the thing, right? As soon as we entered our college ID and we got inside the gate, right? There was like a couple of security men and they were both white, right? And the security said that, the security told me to go. The security let me go because I've not done anything wrong. And the security approached him and asked him if he's got any weed inside his pockets, right? And I was like, what the hell did I just observe in front of me? Right? And then obviously I went into my classroom, and of course what happened was the guy came back to me and literally told me he never smokes weed or does any of that shit. Right? Yet the security just approached him. Why? Because he's black. Come on, bro. Like the whole justice system, like all this systemic racism that's going on, black people being more likely to be excluded from schools or more likely to be arrested. Come on, bro. Come on. Why are they being seen as less than human? Like, what have they done to you? The problem is, you don't have as much exposure towards black people. And as a person myself, I've had a lot of exposure amongst black people in college, at workplace, and they've been the most helpful human beings that I've ever met so far. They've been the most helpful, always checking out on your well-being. I've never ever noticed a single part of them having this attitude of, oh, I don't give a shit, or, having a different sort of tone of energy, seeing another person of color like me appearing in front of them. No. They've always been fair. They've always been helpful. They have this insane level of humanity in them. And yet they're being criminalized. Yet they're being stereotyped. Yet they're being seen as aggressive just because, yes, it might be cultural that, some people are louder than others, yet they're being seen as aggressive. And that's a harsh label. And furthermore, we need to understand one thing about black people. And actually, us human beings, right? Our skin tones are different to them. But in reality, we're just a mutation of black people, right? Brown, orange, many different skin tones, or even white. They have migrated to different parts of the world, originally coming from Africa around 300,000 years ago. And that's research done. So it's backed up by research that they've all came from Africa around 300,000 years ago, moved to different continents, and now they've lived there over time, mutations, But come on, bro. And they're always hated upon. You really need to have a serious think about what is it that's wrong in your thinking or in your actions as to how you treat black people. Because, really, I've got the greatest respect for them.
At first, the video that this comment was left under was reaching the target audience. But then some weeks went by and it started reaching more audiences that had opinions like this. First of all, my video was about how people were intensely rude to me or ignored me or glared at me when I gave them a smile. And you are saying it's because I'm not brown, I am black. Essentially, you're saying that a justification to why that might happen is because I'm being perceived as a black woman, which isn't any better, right? That is bad. That is racism. And this was just the latest comment that I saw because I've been getting a lot of comments on that video for some reason, it's re-blown up. But I've been seeing hundreds of comments like this left under my video being like, you're not brown, you're black, you're black. Secondly, you're fully invalidating me and my experience as a South Asian, a South Indian Tamilian, by being like, you're not brown, you're black. I'm brown. I'm telling you that I'm South Indian, I'm Tamilian. Here's my bindi, right? I don't know what more to say. It is a really shitty thing to do when someone's like, this is my ethnicity, and you correct someone on what their ethnicity is. And I don't know why a lot of people feel that it's okay to tell South Asians what they are and what they aren't. Because I see this happen a lot to other South Asians as well. If this was any other race, this would not be okay. This would not be acceptable. People wouldn't even think of commenting something like this under a video. I was raised in an Indian household by my biological parents. Na sara lama Tamil vera pesuven. And with the number of comments like this I've been getting, I don't know why you think it is okay to tell someone what their ethnicity really is or what their race really is. Like, if you have nothing to contribute to the conversation, don't contribute. And your contributions are bullshit because you're justifying racism towards Black people. Like, that is not okay either. None of what you're saying is okay, my guy.
A lot of people have asked me to talk about the roots of anti-blackness in South Asian or Indian society, and I can identify 4 factors. 1, the internal caste system, where Dalits and Adivasis are traditionally much darker or blacker skinned, and Brahmins tend to be lighter skinned. I am obviously an exception to this one. 2, the Indian Ocean slave trade. Now, there has been an African diaspora in India from as early as the 7th century, many of whom were enslaved within India. So anti-blackness dates back as far as then and earlier with the caste system. 3, colonialism. Proximity to power, to whiteness, to the British was afforded more to those with lighter skin. Those with darker skin were perceived as inferior, and the term coolie was more reserved for them. It's not that this didn't apply across the board, but there was greater discrimination to those with darker skin. Colonialism is a hierarchy, not a binary, and the British would play off one group against another. Lastly, modern global and Indian beauty standards. Fair and Lovely, Fair and Handsome being a very good example. These skin lightening creams, or even the word fair meaning beautiful and light skinned. I once saw an advert where a guy who looked exactly like me couldn't get a girlfriend, then he was given Fair and Handsome and the girl loved him. That broke my heart. So these are the 4 foundations of Indian anti-blackness. It runs quite deep.
So that makes it okay. And people who know better should inflict the same cycles of behaviour. What? I've literally seen Black people be racist to Indians too. But that don't mean I'm going to sit here and say it's okay when Indians are racist back to Black people. And I'm not denying that some people can be racist in every culture. But I'm not talking about ignorant people here. I'm talking about those of us who know better. I'm talking about the same people who want to scream racism but continue to remain ignorant. In the context of what I'm speaking about, and to the level of this racism, no argument can justify it. These are innocent people making food and just doing their bit in their country, trying to earn a living. And people in the comments are using it as an excuse to be racist. And this comment just backs all of that up. I think it's sad that Black and brown people experience so much racism and then decide to point fingers at each other. But I'm not here to get into that. My point was that every single one of those videos have millions of views and hundreds and thousands of comments, of which most of them are racist towards Indian people. And no matter what anyone says, that racism cannot be justified.
So as a Guyanese West Indian woman, I actually just wanted to add my 2 cents on this because growing up back home, my family was one of 2 Indian families in a predominant Black village. And we were always taught to, respect our elders, regardless of the skin tone. You respect everyone around you. My best friends were Black. We went to school with everyone who were Black. And I don't think my grandpa even really knew why he did not want, you were allowed to be besties. His best friends were Black, our neighbors were Black. When we kill our animals for Christmas time, we don't feed half the village. But he always used to preach, you never marry a Black person. And I don't think we really truly knew why we felt that way. Obviously now looking back, slavery, because we were the lighter skinned slaves, the slaves that came from Africa were meant to feel that we were superior to them because of our skin tone. But a slave is a slave is a slave is a slave. And all of my aunts and uncles later went on to marry a Black man or woman. And so all my cousins are, biracial or Dougla for the Guyanese people. That's what we called a biracial person. You're a Dougla. And so I don't think he fully knew why he was supposed to feel that way, but he did. And I mean, like I said, all of my cousins are mixed, except for me. My mom married a Guyanese Indian person. So, but I mean, even as a Guyanese Indian person, I'm like 12% black. So the mixture happened, whether we liked it or not. But it was just interesting for me because I never felt like it was racially profiling back home. We break bread with them. We invite everyone over. We have parties. We sit down, we congregate with them, we go to their weddings, they come to our weddings. Like, we were very much immersed in each other's cultures. And so it never felt like the North American version of racially profiling someone or racism. It never felt that way. But of course, it's obviously still a version of that to say that you can be best friends with them and, we can grow up our entire lives with them. But, oh, you can't marry that person because they're black. I don't think it ever really had anything to do with, your skin tone. Because especially in Guyana, like, it's a Caribbean country. It's very hot. Everyone have some level of melatonin going on. I think we just have to thank slavery for that. Thank the white people for conditioning us and putting us to fight against each other, because even to this day, the black and the Indians are fighting and we don't know what the fuck we're fighting for. But it's just interesting, South American versus North America, how you look at things. So anyways, that's my 2 cents on it.